These videos will make you question everything. So remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's check it out.
Your behavior's not normal.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. For this list, we'll be looking at the top 10 worst guests to appear on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Worst guests.
You know, I represent more than myself these days.
Right.
So I definitely have to watch what I say.
Number 10, Jack Dorsey.
Like, what has that been like for you?
It's been both beautiful and scary. And
Prior to former Twitter, now X, CEO and co-founder Jack Dorsey's first appearance on JRE, fans were expecting the host to really push and interrogate Dorsey on all matters relating to the platform. It has faced its fair share of criticism and controversies over the years, so fans were expecting an in-depth episode. Instead, the episode fell completely flat.
Is there any consideration to expanding it further?
not right now. We're
How about 1 million characters? No?
What took place was a discussion that many deemed as either boring or just uninteresting altogether, with some pointing out how Rogan barely challenged Dorsey, if at all. The episode's reception was so bad that Rogan even had to send out an apology.
I didn't think the podcast would create such a controversy, but that's probably poor prior planning on my part.
Fortunately, Dorsey would later return to the podcast and ultimately redeem himself. Number 9, Aubrey.
You're gonna have that, man. With anything you do, you're gonna have good podcasts, you're gonna have bad podcasts, you're gonna have, ones that you think, this ain't really gonna do good. It comes out and it goes viral. You know what I mean? You never really know. I guess that's the fun in it. That's the challenge in it. That's what keeps you going day to day, myself included. Like, you never know what everyone's gonna like. Or you know what I mean? Vice versa. So,
Aubrey Marcus
comes with it.
This entrepreneur and health guru was once a frequent guest on the Joe Rogan Experience. During his appearances, Marcus discusses everything from life and business to holistic approaches to facing obstacles.
Like maybe pushing through these seemingly trivial things, it counts.
While there has never been any culpable tension between himself and Rogan, and some enjoy his appearances on the podcast, others are not so enthusiastic.
The only thing that ends the cycle ultimately is love.
Many have labeled him as self-serving, and that he only seems primarily interested in selling his brand. Others often point out that what he preaches pretty much means nothing, and that he frequently contradicts himself.
And hey, am I a douchebag?
Number 8, Steven Crowder. While things started off relatively tame with this guest, all hell broke loose when the topic of conversation veered towards marijuana use and legislation.
Yep.
A shouting match of sorts ensues, with Crowder constantly trying to chime in and Rogan not letting him do so.
Hold on. Stop.
No, hold on a second. This is
you
because you just
interrupt
want-
way too much.
No, no,
you need to stop.
you talk in
Hold on a
paragraphs.
second. No. I don't talk in
Go ahead.
paragraphs. I make full points.
Insults are hurled, and it becomes very clear that Rogan is no longer in control of his podcast.
Since marijuana legalization, highway fatalities in Colorado.
And the last time I talked about this, I forgot to mention it. He's talking about this while holding a peace pipe in his hand. Like, that's the crazy part to me. I can't even believe I forgot to even say something about that last time. That takes it over the top and makes it even more funny to me.
Since you called me Since you called me
It is important to note that Rogan and Crowder
He should have lit it like the entire time that dude was sitting there.
enjoyed a few drinks throughout this episode, so it might explain why things went south. Perhaps this explains why the guest show is called Louder with Crowder.
And for some reason you're turning into something hostile that it really doesn't need
It's
to
not
be.
hostile.
It is. It
Might
is.
be to you.
Yeah, it is.
You feel weird about it. I feel great.
It is.
Number 7, Dead Mouse.
I had a chat with Carson Daly the other day, and I said, "Hey, Joe Rogan, come on, what do you do?" He's like, "Dude, do it. You'll have so much fun." And I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? It."
The lack of chemistry between Rogan and Dead Mouse is quite evident from the start. The whole conversation is awkward, and it seems as though no matter what Rogan did, he simply couldn't get the musician to open up about anything.
No, I just don't want to go
Okay.
there. But
There are instances when things get contentious between the two, notably when the topic of recreational substances comes up, something which the host and guest have clearly opposing views on.
is this like something generally accepted that should go in hand with like electronic music then?
Listen, man, I think you're taking it really personal.
As with our previous entry, it didn't help that both men were having a few drinks during the show. Even the likes of featured guests Eddie Bravo and Russell Peters couldn't save this episode.
What?
There's a lot of drunk going on in
Yeah.
this room.
Number 6.
See, that's the thing, and a lot of people don't know. I started out interviewing people before I got on YouTube. That was my thing. My first thing. Well, when I got on YouTube first, I was interviewing people, and I entertained the thought of like drinks, but you don't know where that could go because people are an enigma. People are just that you just don't. There's an unknown when you add in alcohol because you don't know how a person responds to it. How you respond to alcohol is completely different to how I would respond to it. And when I was thinking about it, I was like, this could go left. You know what I mean? Some people can become an angry drunk, and I'm not trying to capitalize on views off of nobody that way. So I never really did it. But you take a huge gamble when you start introducing drinks. You know what I mean? One of the shows I like to watch is Drink Champs with Nori. And things you never know. And then now you got a whole episode that may or may not come out.
Mel Gibson. When it was announced Mel Gibson would appear on Joe Rogan's show, fans were excited.
He says, "What the hell you got to lose?" And I said, "No, nothing. Let's go."
Arguably one of the biggest and most eccentric film stars, many anticipated listening to Gibson tell stories from his experiences being on set of his hit movies, working in Hollywood, and delving deep into his past controversies. Instead, they got this.
You wanted to come in and talk about stem cells.
Yeah.
There wasn't really much substance behind the conversation between Rogan and Gibson, and it didn't help that the episode featured a doctor who specializes in stem cell research. Naturally, the discussion often steered towards this topic.
The only thing that's legal in the U.S., at least for now, I don't think it's going to last much longer, is from Amnion.
For those who anticipated listening to Mel Gibson have his say on everything that has transpired over his career, the episode was most certainly a letdown.
I kind of want to hear you interview him a little bit. It was like all the stem cell guy, huh?
Well, he wanted to come on and talk about stem cells. That's really what he wanted to talk about.
Number 5. Jamie Kilstein.
It is worse. Murder's worse.
During this comedian's appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience,
This
at
had to
one
be
point
the
the
early
men
days.
discuss whether it was appropriate to make jokes with regards to sexual mistreatment. The argument then turns to whether this or murder was the worst crime, with Kilstein stating that the former was worse.
Jamie, you're talking nonsense. You keep bringing up feelings, going to weird and victimization.
This soon spirals into a heated debate that sets Rogan off. He quickly loses his temper and actually yells at Kilstein, calling him crazy. He then tells him that he's talking nonsense. The very fact that Kilstein believes and debates this made for an uncomfortable listening.
So it's an unfair comparison. But murder's worse.
Number 4. Brian Dunning.
If you had to bet yes or no, was 9/11 orchestrated by the government?
Classic.
If you had to bet, would you bet
I would
yes
bet
or
on no.
Anytime a proclaimed skeptic appears on JRE, one can expect fireworks. But while a discussion and heated debate did take place between Rogan and Brian Dunning, it was more so just irritating rather than entertaining.
I think that's what it sounded like.
The whole episode was just one entire argument between both men, and neither seems to be able to get their points of view across.
So you agree
like
with
a
me.
controlled
So you
demolition.
criticize me for what you agree with.
No,
You
no, no.
agree that-
The conversation goes nowhere, and Rogan even goes on to admit that inviting him on was a bad idea. Rogan was most likely correct in his assumption, as the episode would subsequently be removed from several platforms.
God, this makes me sound like an
Number 3.
See, no, I wouldn't have removed it though. I wouldn't have removed it. My thing is, episodes like that, I be wanting them to keep the camera rolling all the way through, even to when the podcast stops and the behind the scenes. For stuff like that, you got to get some of the behind the scenes stuff too. That stuff be gold, and that could kind of save the whole podcast right there.
3. Tom DeLong. If one could sum up Blink-182 guitarist Tom DeLonge's appearance on the JRE podcast in one word, it would be bonkers.
I think that's by design.
From start till end, the whole conversation was off the rails, with DeLong going full steam ahead on his conspiracy theories. However, what left many JRE listeners disappointed was not so much by the topics which DeLong discussed, but more so by the manner by which he did it.
Well, take a wild guess. Look at the people I'm surrounded by, you know?
So the people you're surrounded by are telling you this? Is that what it is?
More often than not, DeLong was incoherent and despite the boldness of his claims, never wanted to get too much into detail about them.
I can tell, I don't know how they did it. I do know that they infiltrated UFO groups.
For longtime Blink-182 fans or believers in extraterrestrial life, this episode left many with a bitter taste in their mouth. Number 2. Eliza Schlesinger. A recurring guest on the show, to say this comedian's appearances on the show have been poorly received would be an understatement. When she came on in 2017, it seemed as though she was primarily focused on promoting her new book, Girl Logic.
This book is about me sort of noticing that women are always called crazies.
The stories and jokes she also told fell flat.
Don't give them a lighter. Like, there's no reason.
A subsequent appearance on the show years later was even worse. When Rogan discussed having Bernie Sanders on the show, Schlesinger chimed in.
Okay, cool. I've had my mom on my podcast. You want to flex?
Rogan's facial expression says it all. Her joke, or rather attempt at a joke, was so poorly received.
Oh my gosh, when the awkwardness is just to the point where you can grab it and touch it, it's tangible. Oh my, those are the best. Those, like, I guess I got like a weird sense of humor in a sense. I don't know, call me crazy, but those would be the best, man, because you can see it and you're looking around like, does anybody else notice this? Is anybody else seeing this?
It went viral. It's hard to see her ever returning after that. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our to be known to your settings. Although this comedian's appearances haven't drawn any notable controversy, many fans have frequently pointed out their displeasure at the comedian's overall demeanor.
Because sweatshop's a real thing, and it's part of someone's history, and you would never understand, so why don't you be quiet?
Some consider him rude, arrogant, and quite demeaning at times. In one appearance, he even went so far as to relieve himself in the middle of an episode.
Okay, from now on, do me a favor and just go to the bathroom.
Oh, fair enough.
His behavior has frequently rubbed audiences the wrong way. However,
no, bruh didn't fart, did he? Like, come on, yeah, that's different there, fam. Podcast over, you gotta go, you gotta bounce, fam, you gotta leave. Ain't no way you gonna do that. Ain't no way you gonna bust it right in front of me, right around me like that, and then just think we supposed to continue on like I know you. Like, who does that? We all do it, but who just randomly in the middle of, like, come on, man. You're a different individual than, I don't need to be around you. Yeah. No, thank you, fam. Don't want to know you no more.
Despite this, he continues to make frequent appearances on the show and seems to get along quite fine with the JRE crew.
You know you're an adult, right?
Yeah.
Those closest to Shafir have pointed out that this is merely a persona, and off-camera he is a very likable person. Alas, JRE viewers still have yet to see that side of him.
Ari is so crazy. I don't trust him for a second.
I don't know Jeffrey Epstein. I've never met Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not on a list. I was not on a plane or an island or anything ever.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're looking at the most notable reactions to the...
Was that his response to Aaron Rodgers? I didn't catch that, but I heard he responded.
Unsealed court documents relating to a lawsuit against Jeffrey Epstein and his former girlfriend, Gillen Maxwell.
Jeffrey Epstein claimed Bill Clinton likes me young. I mean, are we surprised? Like,
Mark Epstein. In unredacted court documents, Jeffrey Epstein victims are shown to have recounted many powerful men and women that they met during their time with the late financier.
Just some of the famous names among a list of 150 revealed overnight in newly unsealed court papers.
However, Jeffrey Epstein's brother Mark feels that the release so far means nothing. He reacted to the so-called Epstein list by saying in part, quote, "I don't know what to make out of these documents. I don't know how these lists were compiled. And I have nothing to do with that. You know, and it's not my business."
He says he's not surprised the documents don't contain any bombshells, but he's also convinced his brother Jeffrey Epstein was murdered in jail to keep him quiet about what everyone was hoping would come out in these documents.
Mark also continues to believe his brother did not take his own life, but was in fact, quote, murdered.
So the question then becomes, if it's a cover-up, I don't think Bill Barr killed my brother. So then who is he covering up for? That becomes the question.
Cameron Diaz. In addition to...
His brother got to chill a little bit. He got, you know what I mean? I get it. I would be outraged too. But if what you believe is possibly true, if what you believe is true, you don't think they would come for you? So yeah, if I'm him, you get it? Or you just have to be like, I don't care. And what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And I'm going to go hard for my brother. Then I get it.
Royals, businessmen, and politicians, Jeffrey Epstein socialized with many celebrities during his lifetime.
Another major revelation was made about magician David Copperfield. He allegedly performed magic tricks for Epstein and several of his victims.
In fact, one of Epstein's victims, Johanna Schoberg, alleges that Epstein name-dropped plenty of them, including actress Cameron Diaz.
I used to be a bright star.
Schoberg says that she never met Diaz, however. Upon the release of her name in the documents, Cameron Diaz issued a statement through her representation denying any connection with Jeffrey Epstein. The statement reads, quote, "Cameron never met Jeffrey Epstein, nor was she ever in the same place as him or had any association with him whatsoever."
Get me out of here. I'm ready for stardom after all these years.
Rainn Wilson and Jax. The Office star Rainn Wilson and Victoria's Secret singer Jax collaborated for an Instagram where they reacted to a particularly disturbing aspect of the released Jeffrey Epstein documents. Namely, the inclusion of Dr. Stephen Hawking's name and the insinuation that he took part in an alleged, quote, underage orgy.
The highly anticipated document.
I wonder if, and this is just me thinking, you know what I mean? Trying to wrap my head around this whole thing. I wonder if he put certain names on there just out of spite. You know, I guess there's no way of us actually ever knowing, but could he just be like, okay, I was never ever able to get anything on them, but let me just jot their name down, because sometimes the lie is more compelling than the truth.
Documents also mentioned theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking.
Rainn Wilson, who famously played Dwight Schrute on The Office, joined Jax for an expletive-laden musical reaction to the Hawking mention. The best part? It was all done to the tune of the Office theme song.
What the is that? Really, what the is he?
The Royal Family. A major chunk of the released court paper centers on Prince Andrew's affiliation with Jeffrey Epstein. The Duke of York has long been accused of appalling acts by Epstein's victims, and the unsealed court documents further implicate Andrew.
No, nothing. Never happened.
Epstein's housekeeper, also in a Florida court legal deposition, said that you visited the Palm Beach residence around 4 times a year.
Many outlets have turned to Buckingham Palace for comment on these accusations, but they have received little response. For the most part, the palace has stayed silent, declining to comment by noting that Andrew is no longer a working royal, and has not been since 2019.
I mean, he lost his title of HRH because of all this, and he lost a huge amount of money, and lost all credibility and was kicked out of public life. So if he hasn't learned the lesson yet, I don't know what will teach him the lesson.
They have reiterated their previous statement, saying, quote, "Andrew deplores the exploitation of any human being, and the suggestion he would condone, participate in, or encourage any such behavior is abhorrent." As for one of Andrew's daughters, Princess Beatrice, she seemingly showed support for her father by visiting him following the document's release. However, she did not share an official statement. Alan Dershowitz. Former Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz responded to the tranche of documents relating to his former client Jeffrey Epstein with a fiery video defense.
And these documents, if all the documents are revealed, will prove categorically that she did misidentify me, that I never met her, never heard of her, never spoke to her.
The documents contained allegations that Dershowitz had relations with underage victims and was named a total of 137 times. His response included in part, quote, "Of course I'm on that list. I was his lawyer. I flew on his plane." He added, quote, "I had an innocent relationship with a man who I didn't know, and nobody suspected had done anything wrong." He made the case that if someone is accused...
See? It's like the company you keep or the clients that you take, gotta be careful, man. You never know. You never know what people are doing.
in court papers, quote, "People will assume those accusations must be true, but there is little reason to believe
That's crazy,
I'm 85 years old. I hope the good Lord gives me the strength to continue to represent the most despised, the most controversial, the most unpopular people in the world.
Jimmy Kimmel. In the days
Then I guess you gotta accept what comes with that, my man.
leading up to the so-called Epstein list release, late-night host Jimmy Kimmel was involved in a public spat with NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
This stemmed from an appearance on the Pat McAfee show, where Rodgers insinuated that Kimmel's name would appear on the list.
A lot of people, including Jimmy Kimmel, are really hoping that doesn't.
Kimmel fuck. And then I heard like Pat McAfee said that Aaron won't be on the show no longer this season. What happened? Like what happened with that? But let me hear this. I didn't hear
back
this.
on social media. Dear blank, I've not met, flown with,
I saw
visited,
this.
or had any contact whatsoever with Epstein.
On his first show back from holidays, Kimmel tore into Rodgers during his opening
This what
monologue,
I didn't see.
calling him Karen Rodgers.
He put on a magic helmet, and that G made him a genius.
Kimmel reiterated that he has no connection with Epstein and would never be listed in any of the documents. As for accusers like Rodgers, he went on to say, quote, "This is how these nuts do it now. If you don't like Trump, you're a pedophile. It's their go-to move."
And by the way, are you looking for someone who actually was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein, who called him a terrific guy and bragged about his affinity for younger women? I have very good news, Epstein hunters. I found one for you.
Megyn Kelly. Former Fox News personality Megyn Kelly had a rather cryptic response to the newly unsealed court documents.
We're not done with Jeffrey Epstein. I can tell you that for a fact. Can't tell you how I know, but I can tell you for a fact.
During her Sirius XM podcast, The Megyn Kelly Show, the host said, quote, "I can't tell you how I know, but I can tell you for a fact we're going to hear a lot more about Jeffrey Epstein in the coming year, and you may even be hearing from him directly." She followed by saying, quote, "More on that as I'm
What?
allowed to tell you."
Will there be more?
Wait. You may be hearing from him directly. Maybe like a recording, right? We're talking about a recording. That's what we're saying here, right? Not somebody actually faking the death and putting him somewhere in hiding to protect him or something like that, right? That would be the crazy. If that comes out this year, I will be glued to the TV.
Kelly also made it clear that while the latest revelations were, quote, shocking to her, they were not the least bit surprising.
It's shocking, but not surprising. Like I said, we've seen this history of his for a long, long time.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Politician and presidential hopeful Robert F. Kennedy Jr. responded to the unsealed Jeffrey Epstein court documents by saying that he, quote, will be left unscathed.
I think it's important for the American public to know whether Jeffrey Epstein had some kind of corrupt influence on public officials or any public figure.
The independent presidential candidate previously admitted that he flew on Epstein's plane. However, he has yet to be named in the unsealed documents.
You weren't on Epstein's well, I mean twice, with my family, once to go fossil hunting, but aside from that.
Kennedy Jr. said, quote, "I like what's happening today. I like the fact that all these papers are being released. I've been an advocate for transparency. I think the government keeps too many secrets." He also hopes that the releases continue until everything is made public.
I hope everything that is known about Jeffrey Epstein comes out.
Bill Clinton. While Bill Clinton is not implicated in anything illegal in the unsealed court papers, the former president was mentioned as having a specific preference in the opposite sex. The release of Johanna Schoberg's 2016 testimony revealed that Jeffrey Epstein told her that Clinton, quote, likes them young.
She is asked, did Jeffrey ever talk to you about Bill Clinton? She responds, he said one time that Clinton likes them young.
Angel Ureña, a Clinton spokesperson, responded to the latest claims by telling Newsweek that, quote, nothing has changed since Bill's 2019 statement. That being that Clinton continues to stand by the fact that he, quote, knew nothing about Epstein's crimes.
A spokesman for Clinton referred NBC News to a prior statement from 2019 saying he had not spoken to Epstein in over a decade and was unaware of Epstein's crimes.
Ureña confirmed President Clinton took 4 trips on Epstein's plane in 2002 and 2003, but had not spoken to him in over a decade prior to his passing. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and switch on.
Will Clinton go down as one of the most controversial presidents in history? One of the most? What do y'all rank Clinton at?
Epstein's accomplice and former girlfriend Gillen Maxwell has reacted to the released trove of court documents that, in part, named several of their associates. Through her attorneys, Arthur Aidala and Diana Fabi Sampson, Maxwell continued to insist she is innocent of any wrongdoing. The statement also says that, quote, Gillen Maxwell took no position on the court's recent decision to unseal documents in Giuffre v. Maxwell, as these disclosures have no bearing on her or her pending appeal. They iterated that Maxwell's focus is on the upcoming appellate argument in which she's asking for her entire case to be dismissed.
I don't think she has anything to talk about, except maybe that if you look at this crime, this overall crime, it's all about men abusing women for a long period of time, a lot of men. That's what we're waiting for this list. And there's only one person in jail, a woman.
What has been your reaction to the unsealed Epstein court documents? Let us know in the comments below.
I guess now it's just like, I guess now we know to wait for more. More's to come. So prepare yourselves. I guess we ain't heard the last of it. And it sounds like to me, we ain't heard the craziest part about it yet. So this could get crazier, man. And to be honest with you, 2024, and I know a lot of people would be like, and we say that every year, but 2024 started out kind of crazy. Between this list, the Cat Williams situation, and everything else, bro, this 2024 is coming out the gate hot. Hot. You hear me? Straight up hot. But listen, y'all get at me in the comment section. Let me know what you think, man. And stick around and stay tuned. Till next one, I'm gone.